I've been doing some thinking, doing some pondering, some contemplating, and I've come to the educated conclusion that it is about that time. Fuck it, mate. Top 50. This is all my opinion. You know that. You know it's all my opinion. You don't need me to tell you that. You know it's all my opinion. But just to give you extra bonus clarification, yeah? If you do see a record on this list, yeah, that makes you go, mate, why the fuck is that on the list? But this album is not on the list. You put that amazing record at number 32, but you put all of these trash albums at number 10, 12. Like, if you have any sort of emotional response to this list similar to what I've just described, just keep in mind, yeah, that this is all just shit I've enjoyed listening to. Certain albums don't hit for me like they do for you, and that's all good. Every record on this list is something I passionately love. I have connections and emotional attachments to all of the albums on this list, regardless of placement, number 10, number 1, number 50, number 48. I will defend every single one of these records. I think they're all magical. I hope you find some great recommendations. If anything on this interests you, take it upon yourself to give it a try. If you do listen to it and you discover something you really love, I would love to know that. And yeah, that's the you know, arbitrary preamble out the way. Shout out to Dr. Kawashima. Let's begin.
I release this. Yeah, I release this. I'm from the other side where other guys don't talk too much.
This album is Tuco. Breaking Bad Tuco. Zalupas is erratic and unstable on this record. I feel like he could just shoot me in the face out of nowhere and not even flinch. Fucking straight from the gutter, mate. For You and I is a love letter to all things UK electronic music, packaging the sounds of deconstructed club, UK garage, drum and bass and wonky together with a neat, colourful bow. The sound palette is warm, it's a record full of wonder and excitement to explore the fullest potential in everything it finds. I love it.
For only take a stand and take it where you are. Turn around and face it, you're adjacent to
a comfortable marriage of the folk art rock maximalism of their self-titled and the glitchy broken experimentation of 22 a Million comes I, an album that sounds like persevering through hell just to unapologetically tell the world you fucking made it. Every track is just such a cathartic explosion and I just find it so damn comforting. This might be my favorite one they've done.
Didn't mean to get so close, and I know that I should probably go, but I got this feeling.
However, on the quieter side, this record feels more like a sentimental letter passed you from the back of the classroom, written by someone that would prefer to keep their identity a secret. It's a little rough around the edges, but that's okay. All that matters is that the message was delivered to you and that it means something to you. It's a huge leap forward for Clairo, songwriting-wise, LGBT anthems for days, and some great choruses to back it up as well. This album is the nightclub stage from DMC 2013 contorting and warping right in front of you. As time went on throughout the year, it became more and more impossible for me to deny that the construction of these beats is just fucking fascinating. The sound design is sexy, okay? I don't fucking care. This is the space jazz soundtrack to Rebuilding Earth, bro. It sounds like an apocalypse just doomed us all and some aliens discovered the remains and just found a couple saxophones and went crazy on them while they just restored civilization. It's a life-affirming record.
Boldly pretending you're wrong. Jump into the Atlantic when you've taken all the pain.
This is an utterly pristine R&B record that feels like it's constantly changing and growing and evolving as it goes along. I love the way it develops across its runtime. It feels incredibly confident and stoic. The songwriting is fearless. The performances are stunning. This album's just like a 19-minute anxiety attack. It's fucking broken. This record just feels like it's been tortured for years and it's finally escaped and it just can't think of anything else but pain.
Here in a Texas Uber, here it's a Lexus. Or am I with some pressure? Next shit's depressing. I don't even get it, even when I got it, man, it's so
with clean production choices and honest lyrics about his struggles with the music industry, battling drugs, coming to terms with the past being the past. My favorite hip-hop records are the ones that feel unapologetic and fearless in their expression, and Wiki's Oofy is no exception.
Now first things first, nigga, where you from? You must be
Okay, so
dumb.
I'm just gonna level with you guys. I just put this album on, and then the next thing I knew I was robbing a bank, and now I'm running. I don't know where I'm going.
So real. You work for money and the rest you steal. I feel like an old tattoo. I feel like I'm falling for you.
Taking influence from the pioneers of post-punk comes a surprisingly refreshing celebration of mundanity. Despite the idiosyncratic sarcasm of Grind Chatton's voice, he brings so much humor and personality to this album that it really makes me feel just ecstatic that they've made it this far as a group, given the many descriptions of lowly beginnings that he brings to these songs. It's also just fucking shockingly catchy.
It's
production is super just dreamy and futuristic, the hooks are just absolute bliss. And the vocals are the perfect mix of sentimental and honest, yet also very energetic and fun. It's very playful, I couldn't put it down, it's wonderful. I feel like the music on this record would just be like what I would be hearing if I were to just walk through Olympus or Atlantis. It sounds like it comes from the land of gods. There's something very almighty and spiritual to the incredibly glistening soundscape Shy brings to the table on every track here. If there's any album on this list I depend on to keep me safe in the heat of a war, it would 1000% be this one. And also the piano flutters on Algae Rushes. I swear I can just feel them increasing my life expectancy on every listen. I could just feel it.
side by side. We are side by side by side.
Vanishing Twin have delivered psychedelic hypnotism in musical form here. It's a watery and lucid foray into the sounds of ambient, jazz, art rock, spoken word, and many other different styles. It will have you questioning what on earth the category is that this record even should be falling into, but that's kind of the beauty of it to me. There's no clear label you can really pin on this album. Like, yeah, musically it's similar to things bands like Stereolab have done in the past, but at the end of the day, the Age of Immunology builds its own shape and style. It feels like you're watching that happen right in front of you as you listen to it. American football made my heart flutter endlessly. With LP3, it doubles down on all of the dreamiest qualities of their past work to make something irresistibly endearing. It's easily the best sounding record of theirs to date, but the humanity never gets lost in the fire like it did on their comeback album in 2016. Everything couldn't feel more honest. Like that muscle memory line on Silhouettes still gets me a little teary-eyed to this day, man.
Need some formula for her little baby. Damn, is this a trap? Fuck, I put her back to the laps.
Love him or hate him, Baby Keem stands out, and for me he's a complete breath of fresh air. His goofy vocal tone, his seemingly endless number of quotables, it all perfectly fuels the dude's just blissful unawareness of everything besides having fun. This record has a ton of variety, from the slick fluid bounce of Orange Soda, the melancholy dreariness of Honest or Bullies, the pop-punky angst anthem of My Ex, the all-out banger explosions of Stats, France Freestyle, Rockstar P. Baby Keem loves his bitch. All he can process across this album is loving his bitch. He'd die for his bitch, and I'd die for Baby Keem.
I'm at way too many fans in a day. It's not too many Zans on the way. Still be off the shiz, but
Though it may not seem like it on the surface, Lucky has delivered easily one of the most harrowing records of 2019 here. Every song on this album details his heartbreaking mental degradation at the hands of both crippling drug abuse and his failed love life. And the instrumentals are minimal, they're cloudy, his vocal tone is eerily emotionless, and this adds a lot to make him feel completely consumed in the indulgence that's torn his life apart. It's as hypnotizing as it is poignant, and it's one of the best trap records in recent memory. On the sunniest side of the spectrum though, Ventura is delightful. Pac has always been a stunning performer, but Ventura is him at his most lovable and confident. He sounds on top of the world on every song, and it's all the better for it. Make It Better, Jet Black, King James, these are all some of the most passionate songs he's made to date, and it's all produced pristinely with a wonderful cast of features that do nothing but elevate the consistently brimming joy of this record. It's a perfect summer album for real. This is a hard album to stomach. Purple Mountain's frontman David Berman committed suicide shortly after this record released, and you'd be hard-pressed to find another album in 2019 that sounds quite as prepared to embrace the end as this one. All I can say is thank you to David for this stunning final body of work. It's a harrowing yet uncomfortably hopeful send-off that never fails to punch me in the gut.
You're claiming for hat for
You can hope. You can hope. They pray and pray on my downfall. You can't go against
Marvy
God.
is 3 months younger than me, and his bars are some of the wisest I've heard in years. He writes like he's been through 12 lifetimes and performs like his life depends on it. Just look at the song Sense if you want to get a glimpse at this dude's rapping skill. The way he switches flows on that song is impeccable.
You said you got to let me escape myself.
The National dial things back to crushing simplicity and desolation on I Am Easy to Find, an album that's all about how relationships progress over time, how easy it can be to lose yourself in another person, and how comforting it can be to find yourself again in that same person. It's about the indescribable joys of connection and how to cope when you see that connection fade away. You know, these themes are lovingly backed up with quiet, nimble instrumentals that never strike you over the head, making I Am Easy to Find a gift that keeps on giving. Whilst Light is my personal choice for the most overlooked gem of 2019, not only is this record thematically a beautiful look on the painful process of watching relationships you used to cherish just kind of slowly diminish in front of you, but it's also just a completely magnificent pop record in its own right. Like if the ending to Dismiss Everything or the hook to Manta Ray don't just fill your heart with childlike wonder, I don't know what will, man, because bro, this shit is just jamming, dude.
Confuse me, I kill your truths. Wake up, wake up, 949, stop right.
Aries. This is an artist that confused me at first. I didn't really see what made him so special, as his music just kind of seemed to cater towards a lot of modern trends without doing anything particularly refreshing with them. But then Welcome Home happened, and his marksman eye for sneakily irresistible melodies just opened up to me, and this quickly became one of the catchiest things I'd heard in fucking years. Emo trap at its best, no question.
Time to survive, pray on the plane, get off, laugh at God. Goddamn shame, but gave him the...
This is the most vulnerable and fed up Billy Woods has ever sounded. He normally has a very agitated tone to his music and stuff, but on Hiding Places he sounds particularly very confused and unsure of how to keep going. As challenging as it can be to kind of sift through and decipher the meanings behind many of the esoteric and puzzling bars he brings to the table on this album, it all mostly boils down to Billy just feeling completely imprisoned, like he has no choice but to hide, hence the title of the album. And Kenny's clunky and disorganized instrumental backdrop is just the perfect soundtrack for this, making Hiding Places one of the most immersive hip-hop releases of the year. Despite never uttering a single word, the cloudy haze of A Day in Del Brew remains one of the most well-developed and unsettling musical worlds I've explored all year, acting more as a series of sound collages rather than traditional songs. Lillian has built a kaleidoscopic album filled with snippets of radio feedback, haunting guitar loops, and it's all assembled to great effect. Right when you start to feel comfortable in this album, it becomes eerie, like it's hiding a dark secret from you that you're just better off not knowing.
City nigga, boy, I'm coming out the boy, we coming out the
After teasing a more conceptual direction with Taboo, Denzel revisits his roots on Zoo, which is a manic love letter to his hometown of Carol City and all of the rambunctious chaos that comes with it. It's not pushing him into any new territory, but it showcases his strengths better than any other album in his catalogue. And it's also entirely freestyle, what the fuck? Birefringence. This album is absolute fucking masochism. Its secret weapon, though, is its unpredictability, darting from frighteningly speedy riffs to sluggish, lumbering drums in a matter of seconds. It's like plunging into a hellish abyss, and right when you get numb to the terror of your own demise, it just gets even more powerful and even darker. I highly recommend just letting this record just drag you straight to hell, because, mate, you're in for a fucking ride.
Oh my god.
Congratulations. You have made one rap song repeat 10 to 12 times to create a rap album.
New chores, got some bread in mind. I want the 2 doors, ain't no giving rise.
Injury Reserve is a harsh statement on the cost of being a rapper in 2019, as well as an attack on the internet age. It feels indebted to the roots of hip-hop too, though. The beats follow traditional formulas, but also use sounds that could only be accessed in 2019, beautifully blending the digital and the organic. Absolute fire, bro. Utterly mystifying selection of beats here. I don't know where this man finds these fucking golden samples, but he flips them all stupendously well and successfully builds a world of intrigue, mystique, and wonder, and he does it all with flying colours. Teebs also collaborates super well here too, as this record has a ton of guests that all fit in perfectly despite all being from different musical backgrounds. Arnica is an album I could easily just leave on repeat for hours and just never get bored of it. Breakup records always manage to hit me hardest when they're presented very cinematically, and All Mirrors is the epitome of that. The intense drama of every word spoken here gives Angel's heartbreak the weight of an apocalypse. Ghosts of all of her past loves just loom over this record ominously. It's a misty and tumultuous emotional breakdown about coming to terms with the place romance holds in Angel's life. Her loneliness just eats her alive here, and that added vulnerability made it really easy for me to connect with this. It's my personal favourite record of hers to date for sure. The backstory behind how this album came to be is fascinating, but the music itself, in my opinion, is even more so. The fizzing synths and childlike vocal clips and how they bounce off of every track's constantly pulsating sidechains. Production, it's unlike anything I've heard in my life. It's a sketchbook jungle of constantly dazzling creativity. These songs have been around for like 7 years too, which amazes me because they all sound ahead of their time as well. It's so forward thinking, honestly, despite being as old as it is.
I don't care who I offend.
Came through swinging at the gate on a mad one, no fucks.
In one word, Grey Area is uncompromising. Every syllable on this record feels like something Little Sims has waited for the right time to just say out loud proudly, and this is the album where it all gets unleashed. The instrumentals are spectacular, sometimes they're ferocious and lethal, other times they're warm and nostalgic, but every time they are purposeful. This is one of the most expertly executed hip-hop releases I've heard in a long fucking time. Radiohead frontman Tom York returned yet again with another digital dive into his psyche in 2019 on the spellbinding Anima, an album that has him battling many things from his ability to communicate with the people around him, the growing impact of technology. Musically, it always sounds futuristic but a bit unstable, like a powerful machine with sparks flying off of it. It comes off as broken in the same way that Tom sounds himself. I found it all very alluring. Music brings people solace and comfort in a world that sometimes feels as if it's just desperate for you to fail, and UFOF is like a late night communal gathering where everyone you care about reminds you of how okay it is to just feel a bit lost sometimes. This meditative, minimalistic approach to rock music is so damn warm. Every moment on this record feels like it just has your back, from the fluorescent climax of Cattails, the minimalism of Orange. It sounds like a group of pushed aside outcasts have all found each other and they're just celebrating their loneliness together, and it's beautiful. Synthiosis feels utterly perilous in a quest to overthrow the fucking world. It is slow and it lingers waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike, and every time it does I'm just knocked flat. This is a monstrous combination of doom metal, sludge metal, black metal, and all of those influences reinforce one another to build a whole that is utterly terrifying to sit through. It hits when you really don't expect it, almost making you think you have what it takes to fight back before just pulverizing you like a tsunami, and you're just completely overthrown by it. Like, it cuts like Vacuum Head and the Shamanic Vision are just completely overpowering, and it's on a constant power-hungry mission for chaos, but like it knows how to go about doing that. It doesn't just relentlessly hit you over the head. It's patient, and as a result, it is all the more deadly. LGBTQ community has delivered so much stunning music this year, but the release that stuck with me the most was for sure the first Glass Beach album, one of the most inventive and colourful rock records I've heard in years. I can't even begin to describe or break down all the genre influences here, but the best way I can summarise Glass Beach is it's like hallucinatory, progressive, emo pop rock. The music is giant, it's huge, it's danceable, packed with detail, but the heart of the record really shines through the lead star, Jay McClendon, who delivers one of the most captivating, charming, and explosive lead performances I've ever heard on a debut record. There's nothing else like this at all on the market right now, and despite being over an hour long, it never runs low on ideas. Fucking magical.
You better execute me quickly. What? And thank you, boo.
Of all the records on this list, this was the one I absolutely adored the most, just instantly. After 2 tracks, I was just completely hooked on this. This is Japanese plunderphonics music, and they know how to fucking groove, bro. Offering one irresistible, sun-kissed banger after another, all together now with its title alone is inviting you along in the endless fun to be had here. This record doesn't want to leave anyone out. It's like, just when you think a song isn't for you, they'll throw in one more sample that just completes it and makes you go, fuck it, let me just get on the dance floor right now. In fact, I'd say it's the second grooviest record of 2019, only losing out to the boy. He did kind of come through. I gotta be honest. This is the album Kaytranada was born to make. It takes everything he's excelled at in the past and compiles it all into 50 minutes of fluorescent fun. Albums like these always work best when each song follows a consistent idea and tone, and Kaytranada gets this. Bubba knows exactly what it is, and it's fully confident being it. Not one guest feels out of place. You could argue it's a bit samey, but that's the biggest strength to me. He unashamedly totes his grooviness so much on this thing, like even if you don't love it, there was at least one song that made you go, oh fuck, this is a jam for real. Unfortunately for me, that's the whole album. The synths are just so silky and sweet, I could play it forever. But let's move on to another great electronic record from an artist that I've never spoken about this artist before. I don't think I've ever brought him up, if I'm not mistaken. Never brought him up before, ever. Nah, this is the first time. Never mentioned this guy in my life, I don't think. You knew it was coming at some point. Come on, you knew I had to do it to him. And yeah, he came through big time. This is everything I wanted it to be and more. If you didn't know, Sam Gellaitry is my favorite artist of all time. I just fucking adore everything about his sound, his ear for melody, his compositions. They're all just so goddamn fucking opulent and beautiful. And yeah, this record takes the dreamier aspects of the Escapism trilogy, swapping out the future bass 808 heavy bangers for something much more kaleidoscopic and beautiful, which I just think that direction caters to all of his strengths so magically. This record is the soundtrack to seeing the stars and truly feeling as if anything is possible. The giant crescendos here will soar across the record with assurance and glee, making Phosphine a wondrous playground of glamorous sound design and magical climaxes. I could list all of the little moments on this record that just fill my heart with infinite joy, but we would be here all day. Instead, let's just move on to number 11, which is actually a bit of a curveball. Ah, man. Oh my god. So number 11 is Bandana. Might have been a surprise, because in my review, I did score the record a 7, which doesn't exactly indicate, like, top album of the year, like, material. Obviously, though, as we all should know at this point, you know, opinions change, things grow on you, you revisit albums months down the line, they take on new meaning. And I had like quite a few moments this year to where like I would revisit a record. I just thought like, mate, you should have just thought this was fucking wicked from the beginning. And Bandana was definitely the biggest case of that. The sample choices are so creative, and I feel like they're challenging each other more on Bandana. Like I feel like Madlib is making beats to really test Freddie, and Freddie's like overcoming all these obstacles. It just feels like a more calculated, like head-to-head like attack. And looking back, I just gotta like admit, like, this is just one of my favorite rap releases of the year. I fucking love it. Hello though, it's me. Hope you enjoyed that presentation of the list so far with all the clips and stuff. I've had that idea in my head forever, but now it's mostly just gonna be like me on camera, just like this. These are the top 10, mate. These are the fucking top. This was so difficult. I had such a hard time with this list, like harder than ever before, man. Like having to pick the top 10, like my 10 favorites, like fuck me, man. That was so challenging, but I think we got it in the bag.
All erased. I can't remember who you are.
The sound of this record, it almost borders on just like straight sound collage. Like the structures are just completely dynamic and just haphazard. The sound palette itself is kind of disorganized and kind of disheveled, and just it sounds like it's just crumbling in on itself and just like everything's falling apart. Nothing feels like sturdy here. It's totally unhinged and it's incredibly fast paced. This album just blitzes by. Just like a little shadow in the wind that just like, you don't really know what it is, you don't know what you're supposed to get out of it, but you just feel it, you know? Like there are lines on this record that are like blood-curdlingly bleak. There are others that are just like so fucking strange that they're kind of hilarious. Like on the opening track, that line where he's like, her boob gets so flappy she uses it as a fan to wave away sickening BO. Like what? It's just one giant like mockery of humanity, I feel like. I feel like this is just taking all of the fucked up aspects of mankind and just like presenting it in a goofy way that's comically disturbing. I had to give it a spot in the top 10. It made the number 10, bringing us to the number 9. Another very morbid album, another very like dark album. This one also kind of relishing in its darkness quite a bit. It's a rap album though. It's a rap record from who I think are the most creative people in hip-hop right now.
Oh no, they want to take your power. Oh no, and make you even lesser. Oh no, and add you to the number. Don't let them get close. They're screaming a murder. You got to be cautious.
One statement I would like to echo from my review of this album, like, you know, hip-hop, I love rap music, I love hip-hop music, but I mean, a lot of the rap albums I enjoy, even the ones I fucking adore, do follow traditional hip-hop formulas. There's a science to making a rap song, as Injury Reserve demonstrated on their record. So it just felt amazing to hear this album, something truly unlike anything the hip-hop genre has seen before. This is basically a horror movie in rap form. The producers of Clipping have scored films before, so they really bring a very cinematic flair to this record. There are moments where this album feels like it's just closing in on you, whereas there's just some ominous being that you can't step up against and you just have no choice but to run. It really makes you feel on edge throughout its runtime. These guys are 2 for 2 in regards to making hip-hop releases that sound like no other hip-hop release that's ever existed, and that is fucking magnificent to me. Number 8 is a much more poetic release.
The lions turn to cubs, and I have seen the hunters turn to prey. The lessons will come again tomorrow, if they're not learned today. All things are singing. Life is a chorus. It all gets so deafening sometimes. Exhausted, my ears have grown numb till the song in all things.
It's a spoken word album, mainly. It's a spoken word, abstract hip-hop, if you will. It felt like every syllable on this project was completely essential to making it as effective as it was. Man, I will never forget my first listen for this thing. I got around to it really late. I just kind of threw it on. I was just like, fuck it, I'm gonna hear a new record. I just landed on Kate Tempest. I was on a walk, I was just like, fuck it, let's give this Kate Tempest a go. Track 2, the second it went from track 1 to track 2, that transition, I was like, all my hairs stood up. I was so locked into every word she said. I'm thinking of every word she uses and the imagery it brings out in me, and I found it to be an incredibly engrossing and engaging record that feels legitimately terrified. Kate Tempest sounds like someone that cherishes beyond belief every little encounter she has with someone, and is one of the few people that she knows that really does, and is in a world to where like that's not really celebrated, and is in a world that is politically crumbling. She seems genuinely really worried and scared for the climate of the planet and the UK, especially on tracks like All Humans Too Late. There are songs like Fire Smoke and Hold Your Own that have a bit more of an optimistic angle as well. Fire Smoke being about just like that moment of clarity you find with someone when you feel like terrified, but the fact that you're with a certain someone like kind of for a brief moment makes those worries goes away. And then you have Hold Your Own, which that song made me cry first listen. I thought that song was fucking magical, man. The way she framed every sentence on that track hit me so fucking hard. This record is fucking phenomenal, man. I loved her writing to death, front to back, and her delivery every word she feels like she has to say it. Like she is just burning to say this and can't wait any longer. It's fucking magnificent, man. Okay, at number 7 is a record that's much more bombastic. It is overpowering. Oh my god, man. This record is the ultimate confidence boost. If you're a boxer or like a UFC fighter, you need like a walking in song. Mate, Blank Mass is good. If I was like going up against a boxing opponent or something and they walked into like Love is a Parasite, I would in that moment accept my loss. Like I'd be like, this guy's gonna win. Oh my god, this record is so great. This record is so, it makes you feel fucking untouchable, man. It is cartoonishly villainous. Basically, if you've never heard Blank Mass's music before, it's electronic music that's incredibly loud and relentless and pummeling. These large drums, these huge walls of sound with these like subtle melodic progressions kind of floating throughout, and it is incredibly fucking tense. It's a really tense listen. His previous record, World Eater, was harsh and similarly devilish, but this record ups it even further and creates something that truly feels, as the title implies, almost animated in how insane it is. Like, it really does not give you much room to breathe, and I fucking adore it for it. And there are times where it feels like it's really kind of reveling in the havoc, you know? There are some pretty sweet melodic little keys and stuff sometimes. It feels like it's really enjoying its chaos. This album is genuinely like watching an anime boss fight. And it's like just continuously getting more, like the characters on the screen are just getting stronger and stronger as they go along, and it's just getting to the point where it's just like, what the it's just overwhelming. And like this album makes me want to just go play Dark Souls and just run straight to Ornstein and smoke. Oh, it is just like white knuckled intensity front to back. Number 6 is a Karma record. It's one of the best sounding releases of the year. Like the arrangement, the mixing, like the musical flourishes are amazing. And it's also home to one of the best singles of the year, which I will perform for you now.
Track, I see what they do. Good people got something to lose, I don't wanna go back. Nobody's gonna push me off track, I don't wanna be this. Good people got fun to exist,
Alex G with House of Sugar. Bro, oh, my first listen to this thing, mate. I was just stunned by this record, man. Every track here feels like its own little love letter, its own little self-contained present, and it's fucking so endearing. This record has a lot of themes on it about kind of like acknowledging when something isn't really good for you, when to separate yourself from that thing. Tracks like Walk Away, In My Arms, and Southern Sky all kind of revolve around this like overarching kind of tone of self-worth. It's an incredibly reassuring listen, and it's got so many amazing little musical moments that just make me fucking cry, man. Like the guitar at the end of Southern Sky is so magical. The massive like walls of piano on Sugar, the saxophone on the last track. There are just so many like life-affirming little moments like that across this whole thing. It's just kept me coming back to it. It's fucking lovely, man. I love this record so much. Okay, this record, I just like reminded myself of it, and I was like, yo, come to think of it, that album is fascinating. Let me revisit that shit. And I did, I revisited it, and then I was just like, oh. So this is ridiculously good. This record, what the fuck do I even call this, man? This is post everything. This is possibly the most forward-thinking record I heard this year. I right at the very beginning of the album, the very first thing you hear is "the world is coming to an end." That's the first thing you hear. It's acknowledging the fact that we're all plunging towards death at every second, and we're sick of hearing the same thing again and again, and it's just basically putting everything into a blender and just throwing it at you in the most violent and beautiful way. There are these beautiful little moments of release and warmth amongst the chaos that make for some of the most just glorious glimpses of hope I have heard on record in 2019, for sure. This is an album that I think is all about just evolution, looking at your past, growing from it, just pushing forward, moving through life, knowing that it's all going to come to an end eventually. And it's just sort of like one giant melting pot of loads of different eras and genres and musical styles, and it just makes for such a stimulating and fascinating record. Every time I hear it, little moments start to peek out at me, start to like kind of get my attention over other moments. It all starts to kind of fall into place in my head. Like the first couple listens, I genuinely was like, I can't make sense of this. It's just a bunch of like slivers and snippets of samples and clips, and it's all organized, and it's just a complete sound collage. It's not traditional, it's not trying to be conventional in any way whatsoever. It's a really new approach to production and sampling. I really found it amazing. I think this is an amazing record, man. That brings us to number 4. And remember how I said earlier on in this video how my favorite hip-hop records are the ones that are just fearless and relentless with their expression? Yeah.
Now you wanna start. Big dog high, now you wanna bar. Get the day, let it sport. Take more to the side in the heart. I ain't gotta talk. When I see him, I'ma sell it to the floor. One click, we gon' empty his cord. Plant deep, take 2. We can find you at your job, we gon' be at home. Heard your nigga up and coming, we gon' put him on. I ain't even gon' try to get silicone. Let's get it on.
JPEG Mafia, I love Veteran. I think Veteran is fantastic. I personally prefer this over Veteran because it's just way more scatterbrained, it's way more haphazard, and it's way more unapologetically himself. I think it's so beautiful just how confident this record sounds, and you can hear like coughing and like little vocal samples just hovering in the back of these instrumentals, and it just gives this record such a wonderful carefree personality, but it's one that I still feel is human at its core. There are tracks that kind of tackle the idea of being in the spotlight, and there are songs here that of course tackle what it means to kind of be faceless online and what you can get away with and what people can tend to say to you when that is the case, when in that kind of context. It's provocative in every sense, and it's a thrilling fucking listen. The flow from track to track is blistering, and I am still not over the instrumentals on this record. They are produced phenomenally. They're very hazy. There's like a weird sort of cloudy, fuzzy filter over all of it. And JPEG's performances are immaculate, man. He is singing his heart out on some of these tracks. His singing is great, and it's a really catchy project as well, man. It's way more formless than Veteran, but I think that just makes it more expressive. So yeah, I'm a huge fan.
No one
3, top 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 3. Number 3 is Stella Donnelly, Beware of the Dogs, mate. I just watched her Tiny Desk concert the other day too. She is literally she is quite an angel. No album this year has a personality as irresistibly lovable as this. It just kept on just warming my heart across the year. It's an album all about people in positions of power not really being who they say they are. And across this entire record, Stella is basically just saying to all those people, you're a bit of a cunt, mate. I don't think Stella shies away from how she feels at any point on this record. I love its bluntness. Her very frustrating and disappointing stories she has to tell about past relationships with really dodgy men and unloyal or disloyal bosses. Corrupt politicians as well. This record basically acts as like a warning sign that anyone, literally anyone, could fuck you over, and all you really can trust on and depend on is yourself. And this record kind of acknowledges the kind of comically absurd challenge that ensues. It does all of this whilst delivering one unrivaled chorus after another, one fucking infectious melody after another. Stella's singing voice is utterly delightful to listen to. She just comes off as such a relatable and hilarious figure for the everywoman, and I could not get enough of her this year. Every repeat listen just improved for me. I could listen to this thing for hours. I just have indulged myself in it many times, and I would do so many times again. It is wonderful. Number 2.
Mama told me stay grateful, why stay within. This industry could change you, why stay the same. Last year was pretty painful, these niggas really jakes. Niggas dead, rumor really is a shame. If you pay me, I could train you, you boss up in the day. Ain't wet around my ankles or cross up on my chain. Don't know where they throwing shade to, but it never came. Can't flex it, be the same dudes lost up in the game. Can't stress enough the main rule, the bottle, what's name. Putting pressure on your fave crew, comments on the banks.
Mike had me intrigued and transfixed from the second I discovered his music. I think he's an utterly wonderful young face in hip-hop. At only 21 years old, he is making some of the most mature and unique rap music out right now, for sure. Across 20 tracks on his 2019 release, Tears of Joy, we follow Mike through the very confusing and tumultuous journey of dealing with the grief of his mother's passing. And despite how kind of drowsy and monotone of a rapper that Mike is, I think he's one of the most expressive artists alive. He does an amazing job of putting you directly in his shoes. He produces all of his own instrumentals too, and his beats flip pop, rock, soul, gospel samples in ways that I didn't even think was possible. They're incredibly disorienting at points. And I think they add quite a lot of power and reinforcement to the kind of uncertain, rambly way of speaking Mike has on this record. He kind of sounds like he's speaking to an imaginary therapist of sorts, or in this case the therapist would be you, the listener. He's just rambling, just spilling his thoughts, and every now and then he'll just drop like one very simple observational line that just cuts fucking so deep. There are so many little moments, little lines he just drops that linger in my head for the next like 3-4 tracks, because they're just so honest and they just say so much with so little. And despite all of the pain and personal effort that clearly went into putting this record together, ultimately I see Tears of Joy as being generally about the process of coping and pushing through that pain. You know, it's called Tears of Joy, and there are moments on the album where he sounds a bit more gathered, a bit more organized. He sounds like he kind of has a glimpse of hope that the pain will be over one day, and it's about those moments, those little bright spots, the tears of joy that really help push you through times like this. I find this record life-affirming in a lot of ways, and I'm incredibly grateful that it exists. It's my favorite rap album in a very long time. I think it's incredible. Is it recording? Has it got the red dot flashing?
Yep.
What up, team? What up, team? All these albums, every single one of them, top notch, man. They are all completely worthy of being on this list. Every bit as worthy as all the albums that actually are on the list. They're all stunners, but they just didn't quite, you know. Let's get to it.
Out alive, we were new in our own eye.
You're a demon with a scary picture. Eugene, is it you, Eugene?
chillin' with a positive attitude. Do your thing, boy.
Toe banana clips, catch a monkey slipping, then we peel on. We lurking on this block, while he lurking on my.
When I get so low, it takes me higher. I'm not afraid to know what I get.
The live feast down in dirty water under you, hollow out me.
Or not, I turn my volume up to the top. I didn't hear the siren, rude boy, what? Chatting bare shit about fame.
Some datings wasn't thinking about no lawyer, nigga. Fuck.
Alright, enough dilly-dallying, hoes.
The city house with a cry to seduce you and claim you. So it's time. And it's a sad day for sure. Would you make a wish on my love? Would you make a wish on my love?
Yep. This is a very acclaimed record. It's a very popular record. It's a pretty normie choice, I guess. But it's the honest choice, you know. This is the record I feel most comfortable calling my favorite this year. FKA Twigs has transformed from the very glossy, seductive, doll-like figure she presented herself as on her debut record LP1 in 2014 into the broken creature that we see here on Magdalene. And that evolution is one of the most chilling things I have experienced in 2019. FKA Twigs is, for sure, one of the most fearless and fearsome and fascinating alliteration figures in the world. I think she is fucking incredible. This is a bold breakup record that crushingly realizes and explores the empty sensations that a situation as tumultuous as a breakup will inevitably leave you in. I absolutely adore the very minimal electronic, otherworldly production on this album. It really makes the more explosive outburst moments feel like her last dying resort. Each one feeling like just something that her own isolation has driven her to the point of just explosion. And it's her lyrical framing of some of the feelings she describes that really annihilates me on this album and just totally sells it as something that will speak volumes to me years down the line, as well as right now. From the cellophane metaphor of wrapping a past relationship in cellophane, just kind of cementing it as a distant memory of the past, all of those like intense feelings are just no longer there. It's just like a thing it's beyond you now. Like, that framing is really chilling to me. If you don't pull me back, it wakes 1,000 eyes. Like when you notice a certain reaction in a relationship, if you don't pull me back, it wakes you up. It makes you realize that the relationship wasn't what you thought it was. Her descriptions of kind of coping through the loneliness on Mirrored Heart and how difficult it can be when there's no one there to sort of assist you through that process, and how she kind of depicts her own reclusiveness as sort of her best friend on the song Daybed, I also thought was wonderful. Her singing voice also enters all kinds of different forms on this record. It's warped and stretched beyond belief, which just adds to how confused and uncertain she feels, how she kind of doesn't really recognize herself, it seems, and she's just trying to rebuild herself within her own emptiness. It's such a fucking stunning release. It's definitely my favorite this year. On first listen, by the end of the first listen, I was legitimately like stuck in silence for a few. I just thought it was so unbelievably gorgeous. Every track is offering something completely different musically as well. It's full of ideas and creativity, and as a producer, she is insanely forward-thinking. I have an unbelievable amount of admiration for this record. I think it is magnificent. It's my favorite of the year. And yeah, that concludes the list. Oh my god. Holy fucking hell, this video. This is the most I've killed myself making a video, just so you know. Thank you all so much for watching. Please tell me what your favorite records are in the comments, and if any one of the albums I spoke about in this video that you have not listened to yourself, if any single one of them enticed you even the slightest bit, please take it upon yourself to go stream it, give it a try, go on a walk, sit in your bed, do whatever, fucking just give it a listen while you're studying, whatever, just try it out, see where it takes you, see if it gets your attention, please, and let me know if you find anything you really enjoy. This is what this is all about, sharing these lists, sharing our favorites. We all want to just discover new wonderful music, and if you come across anything you love from this video, let me know. That would be beautiful to just to know, you know. Here's to 2020. Hope it's all going well for you so far. That concludes the video. Let me just stop talking because I will just ramble onwards. You know how I'm like with ending videos. Love you all. You're all beautiful. Thank you for your support and loyalty. Shout out to Kawashima. Shout out to Japanese Shia LaBeouf. Constant inspiration. I'll see you on the next video. Goodbye.